And now, HBO Sports presents Boxing After Dark.
Presentation of HBO Sports.
Chicago, Illinois for this year's final edition of Boxing After Dark. Tonight, a split continent triple header starting here in the Windy City with former 140-pound can't-miss prospect Victor Ortiz attempting to rebound after getting stopped in his last fight. Tonight he faces battle-tested veteran Antonio Diaz. Then we have the rematch between Juan Diaz and Paulie Malignaggi. Diaz won a highly controversial unanimous decision in his hometown back in August, and tonight's contest will take place on neutral territory. And then we'll show you this afternoon's heavyweight title fight from Bern, Switzerland, between Vitaly Klitschko and undefeated 30-year-old American Kevin Johnson. Vitaly Klitschko, since coming back from retirement, making the third defense of his heavyweight championship belt, 8-2 with 8 knockouts in title fights. Kevin Johnson, well, this is a big step up for him. Pretty relaxed coming in. 30 years of age, 22-0-1 with 9 knockouts in his career from Asbury Park, New Jersey. You'll see it tonight here on Boxing After Dark. Hello again, everyone. So glad you could join us for HBO's Boxing After Dark. I'm Bob Papa. Lennox Lewis and Max Kellerman will join me momentarily. So we're at the end of the year. We started the year off talking about young prospects like Victor Ortiz and Juan Diaz, a former champion. Well, their report cards for 2009 are incomplete, but they'd like to finish the year off with straight A's and victories here tonight. As I welcome in HBO boxing analyst Max Kellerman. Max, you take a look at these young men and what they bring to the table, and really the curious aspect about it all is the 140-pound weight class, a division that is loaded with possibilities.
Welterweight is correctly recognized as the best division in boxing. Junior welterweight is the deepest. Here are the belt holders. Timothy Bradley perceived as the best of the bunch. He's fighting Lamont Peterson tonight. We'll see how that turns out. They're both undefeated and excellent. Amir Khan is a spectacular talent on fire recently. Devin Alexander's a very good undefeated fighter, a good boxer. Juan Urango is a rugged veteran brawler. Here are some of the stars. Pacquiao's the lineal champ, even though he may not be fighting in the division any longer. Ricky Hatton, the former lineal champ, is still campaigning. Marcos Maidana, with his knockout win over Ortiz, is on the rise. Lamont Peterson, a talented guy. We'll see how his fight with Bradley turns out, as I mentioned. And Kotelnik was a belt holder for a while until Khan beat him, and it goes on. Juan Diaz and Paulie Malignaggi fight tonight. Nate Campbell, lightweight stalwart, is now campaigning at junior welter. Kendall Holt, a talented veteran fighter. And Victor Ortiz, no one questions the talent or the skill, Bob. The question is about his will.
Well, he got off to a great start in 2009. I mean, he took on Mike Arnudis here on Boxing After Dark, landed 11 and 15 power shots, walked right through him in 2 rounds.
And what's so impressive is Arnudis is a solid guy, been in with Kendall Holt. No one ever blew him out like this. I mean, Ortiz walked right through him, cut right through him.
Then he took on Marcos Maidana. They both went down in round number 1. Then in round number 6, here's where Ortiz found all kinds of trouble, and this is where the question mark started.
Had fight of the year written all over it. Both guys got up from knockdowns, but eventually Ortiz didn't have an answer for the right hand, didn't continue.
as he tried to answer your questions after the fight.
We'll see what happens from here on out, man. I'm young, but I don't think I deserve to be, getting beat up like this. So I have a lot of thinking to do.
Well, he had a lot of thinking to do, and back to the drawing board. A bit earlier, Max Kellerman caught up with Ortiz and asked him about his situation and what happens if he's in another difficult fight.
Victor, people are interested in knowing if you find yourself in a similar situation as your last fight, how will you respond?
Well, the difference between the last fight and now is I showed up tonight. My last fight, I was nowhere near the ring. Well, my body was, but mine wasn't. So I'm ready. It's just it's a whole different camp. It's a whole different fight, and he's a new target. So
no one questions your talent or your skill. It's top notch. But people are interested in knowing if you fight, because you made the comments after the fight, you're a young guy, you didn't want to be taking punches like that. If you get into a fight where you are taking punches like that, what do you anticipate your reaction will be?
I'm willing to trade it all. I've grown up pretty rough, so hey, it is what it is. It's boxing, and you pay the price.
Good luck, Victor.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's see if he's ready tonight. We look at the key numbers, the tail of the tape, 22-year-old Ortiz, 33-year-old Diaz. Height the same, slight reach in the arm length for Ortiz. Both fighters weighed in at 144 pounds. On our unofficial scales, Ortiz rehydrated to 155, Diaz to 157. Time for the rules with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
The Victor Ortiz-Antonio Diaz fight is scheduled for 10 rounds using the unified rules that you see on your screen. Bob, real quick, the 4 criteria that the judges will use to score each individual round: clean punching, effective aggressiveness, ring generalship, and defense, with a strong emphasis on clean, effective punching. Bob!
All right, Harold, time for the formal introductions. Here's our ring announcer, Joe Antonacci.
Boxing fans, here we go. 10 rounds of action in the welterweight division. Our judges: Ulmaro Champazano, Ted Gizma, William Lurch, and our referee, Gerald Scott. Introducing first in the red corner. He comes to us tonight from Coachella, California. He weighed in at 144 pounds. White, green, and red trunks. Professional record: 45 victories, 5 defeats, 1 draw, 27 knockouts. Please welcome Antonio Diaz. And his opponent, fighting out of the blue corner. He comes to us tonight from Oxnard, California, in Ventura County, by way of Kansas. He also weighed in at 144 pounds, green and white trunks. Professional record: 24 victories, only 2 defeats, 1 draw, and 19 knockouts. Please welcome Vicious Victor Ortiz. Our referee, Gerald Scott, has our fighters' final instructions.
Okay, you had your instructions in the dressing room. I want a good, clean, professional fight. Protect yourself at all times. Obey my commands. Touch him up. Let's go.
How does Victor Ortiz respond to a rugged fight? Well, Golden Boy in the Ortiz camp thought here is that Diaz no longer is the kind of fighter who can put him in a tough fight where we get the answers to those questions. I think Diaz has a little more left in the tank than he's given credit for.
And the ironic part about that is Victor Ortiz, as a kid growing up, he and his brother Timo, when they were in the ring as teenagers, said, man, we want to be like the Diaz brothers. The two have a close relationship. They're very friendly away from the ring. They never thought they'd have a chance to fight each other, but here they are going at it. Antonio Diaz has been around for a long time. I mean, he's been in a lot of marquee fights. In his biggest fights against James Mosley and Antonio Margarito, he was stopped. Took a long layoff, took about 3 years off, kind of recharged his batteries, working at a gym in Indio, California, working with kids. Got heavy, 205 pounds, slowly worked his way back, and he's had 4 fights. This is his 5th since that layoff. The weight has come off, and he said, I just needed a break mentally. I mean, I had just been grinding for such a long time, fighting 4 times a year. and I just needed a mental breather. Lennox will find out if, Diaz in the red trunks, getting that mental break, if it rejuvenates him, because he is only 33. It's not like he's 40.
Well, taking a break sometimes is very important, especially if you feel mentally drained, and taking a year off or a couple months off does the body good. It gives the body a chance to heal, and, it makes you think about what you want to do for the future, and he wanted to get back into boxing, and that's what he's doing right now.
He's been in against Hector Quiros, has a win against Corey Spinks, Ivan Robinson back in 2000, great fight against Omar Viz. In 2000, won a 10-round decision against Mickey Ward. But Max, he's always been talking about Antonio Diaz in the red. Comes up just a hair short.
Yeah, he actually took a 3-year layoff. But I agree. Seeing him recently, I'd say he's maybe 80%, 85% of what he used to be. Still a tough guy. As an opponent for Ortiz, though, there's nothing fancy or tricky about Diaz. He's there to be hit. And Ortiz is such a devastating puncher. The thought is what he hits will go.
Ortiz says that his training is much sharper. Had a wrist injury going into the Madonna fight. Got throttled in that fight. Says it wasn't himself. Well, we'll find out the real Ortiz here tonight and see if he can bounce back.
And Ortiz, he's just moving around, trying to get relaxed. He still seems a little bit tight, needs to be relaxed a lot more, but he just wants to go in there and score points right now and not get hit, use the ring, use his ring generalship. He seems like a lot quicker on his feet and with his hands.
Both men short as Diaz dips away, short with their punches. Diaz able to get away, trying to throw that left hook, hits the back of Ortiz. So we hit the waning seconds of round number 1, scheduled for 10.
Very nice round, very nice round. You moved very well. Forget about the yell. You did a very good job. Keep working it, just like that. Walk side to side, remember that. Be careful with his right, he wants to throw that right. And you move out. You just keep throwing your jab. When you're measuring, step in with the jab. Step in with it, pop it. Pop it.
He's trying to get you to counter. He thinks that you're going to go in with that right. Okay? Tú más camina, tú te más camina. Bonito, eh?
Just keep it walking, really nice. Very nice. Don't be desperate and throw that hook. Slowly. Throw it to the shoulder. You're going to catch him.
Bonito, eh?
Very nice.
So only 7 punches, according to CompuBox, landed by the 2 boxers combined. Ortiz for 4, Diaz for 3. Feeling out round number 2 underway. Victor Ortiz, just 22 years of age, in the white and green, 24-2 with 19 knockouts. Diaz hooks with the right hand to the body.
Diaz, only 33 years of age. Without looking, I would have guessed he was 38. It seems like he's been around forever, but he started so young.
This is his 307th round, Diaz, as a pro. This is the 95th round for Ortiz.
Stop holding.
Lennox, let's talk a little bit about Ortiz here, the southpaw. And so far, you said looked a little tight, needs to loosen up. What does he need to do?
Yeah, he needs to settle down a bit. Start working that right hook, because he's got a terrific right hook when he throws it. It comes very naturally. But like I said, he needs to settle down. He throws good combination.
Yeah,
Diaz is definitely there for them.
Great offense there by Ortiz as he knocks around the head of Antonio Diaz.
Marcos Maidana was not only tough, but awkward and rugged. And while Antonio Diaz, certainly in his heyday, was tough, you really wouldn't categorize him as an awkward fighter. He's orthodox. He's straightforward.
Diaz has been stopped 3 times by Shane Mosley, Antonio Margarito, and Hector Quiros in their rematch in 2003. Cuts and swelling have been problems for Diaz in the past. Obviously with Ortiz in his last fight, he had eye cut issues. He tends to cut as well.
Ortiz knows that Diaz is coming for him, so he doesn't really have to wage too much of an attack when it comes to offense. All he's just doing is protecting himself, giving himself a little target, and punching, throwing his punches, moving at the same time.
Ortiz slips away from that combination from Diaz.
Keep him up.
It's interesting, Antonio Diaz told us after the Ortiz-Madonna loss for Ortiz that he sent Ortiz a text saying, hey, look, hang in there. You know, it was upsetting to see him stop the fight, but he said, you know, unless you're in there and you don't know how a guy feels, it's hard to pass judgment.
That's true. A lot of different things can be happening in there that, you know, the public's not aware of, or even his trainer's not aware of.
And to the second, Ortiz with nice flurry in the middle of the round.
Don't touch him. Don't touch him up when you finish. Don't touch him up. Relax. You don't need to say hello. Touch him. You don't need to do that. Just relax. Just like you're doing. Everything is well. Now when you jab, when he throws a right, you counter. 2, 3. You gotta have to be fast. Just 2 punches, no more. Just 2 punches. When he throws that right hand, when he throws a right, step back quickly and throw the 2, 3.
Es todo nomás. Y cuando sea combinación, tú primero, ¿ok?
You've got to be first. You've got to be first, and if you're on the inside, take up that overhand. Take away that overhand. Turn it around, do whatever you do. Get out of there. But work first. All right? Take your time.
So we get set for the start of round number 3. In round 2, Ortiz landed 9 of 26 of his power punches.
You mentioned in the last round, Bob, how Antonio Diaz didn't want to pass judgment on Ortiz for quitting against Maidana. And of course, you're right. You don't know what's going on with a fighter who's in trouble, who decides to stop fighting. And better that he retire from that fight and avoid serious injury than continue fighting on to show the fans how tough he is. That said, part of the problem is when the corner is braver than the fighter. The fighter has to have faith that his corner will say when enough is enough before he does. And that then enables him to show the kind of fighting heart that the fans like to see, because he knows there are people who have his back, who are looking out for his best interest and will protect him even from himself. And I think we see a lot in boxing, that circumstance in boxing where the fighter doesn't trust the corner to bail him out when he needs it.
Gerald Scott scores the first knockdown of the fight, the referee.
It's interesting, the referee was going in there to break him up, but he got messed up in the middle and ended up tripping Ortiz.
Oh, nice combination by Diaz, and then Diaz on a counter goes down.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How you feel, kid? You all right?
Diaz has been down a lot, but how about Diaz landing a combination and then Ortiz counter dropped him. And now Ortiz looking to finish with 1:15 to go here in round 3.
Ortiz so dangerous in exchanges because he's an accurate power puncher.
There's the power of Ortiz. Diaz is hurt and holding on.
So this is what Ortiz needs to do. Throw those flurries of punches, combination punches, because he's accurate.
Punch out of there.
And Diaz is holding because he is a bit wobbly.
So much for that friendship.
And they've got mutual respect for each other. You know, I asked Diaz, what is Ortiz's weakness? He says he has none.
Even when Diaz lands good shots, Ortiz is able to counter him with shots that are more powerful.
Diaz said the same thing. Ortiz said the same thing about Diaz, incidentally. They have a lot of respect for each other. But we've seen throughout the history of boxing some of the most brutal fights are between very close friends. And so far, it is a pretty tough fight.
And they, you know, both boxers understand the business of surrounding this. You know, they said they put friendship aside, but after the fight, they can be friends.
Keep your punches up. Keep them up. Box. Up.
And here we see the knockdown.
Good right
Diaz. Ortiz coming back with his own flurry of punches. More accurate punch. Connected a lot more. Putting Diaz to the canvas.
I want your distance. Find your distance, not his. Your distance. Find your distance.
Let's get this round over. It doesn't matter. Let's get it over, but when we get our energy back and our lungs open, eh?
Step back, box him, box him, box him, and he's going to come to you. Fake him. Fake him.
Okay?
He doesn't want to get hit.
We begin round number 4. The story so far, Antonio Diaz dropped in round number 3. Let's check in with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
Okay, Bob. 3-0, 30-26. Vicious Victor Ortiz. Bob, in round 1, I thought Victor Ortiz edged him out, landing a couple of nice left hands in a very slow round. Round 2, I think he won that round 2 with that big flurry in the middle of the round, even though he didn't follow it up very well, you know, take Diaz out of the fight. But in round 3, dropped him with a heck of a left hand, and then he jumped right on him trying to knock him out. Antonio Diaz looks like a guy who just hasn't gotten into his rhythm yet. You know, he really hasn't gotten any sort of a rhythm. He's not doing very much offensively. 3-0, Victor Ortiz.
Lennox, it almost seemed as if, you know, Diaz landed that good right hand to the chin, and he stopped to admire his handiwork as opposed to being ready. And Ortiz has really good hand speed, and he countered with that left-right back.
And this is what happens, you know. Sometimes you throw a punch out there, you think it's a terrific punch, and you just want to see the effects of it, but you forget about your own defense, and the guy comes back and throws a great punch and catches you and puts you down.
Like what you've seen from Ortiz to this point after that first round where it was a little tight?
Yeah, I think Ortiz should really stand his ground a bit more. He doesn't really need to move around too much because he's a very accurate puncher, so anything he throws is going to be a good punch and a scoring punch. Maybe he should even try backing up Diaz a little and see how that affects him.
Diaz able to land a right, eats a left hook right to the chin. Fires back with the right of his own. Good stiff jab by Ortiz. There's that straight left again.
See, Ortiz does some cute stuff in there, like a lot of southpaws. He felt his back on the ropes about 20, 30 seconds ago, and he spun Diaz around, and it was Diaz who got hit with a combination with his back against the ropes.
And Ortiz is wise about that. You know, you don't want to get caught up on the ring, make yourself an easy target. So moving target's always harder to hit than a standing target.
Diaz steps in with a combination, finished with a right hand that scored. Lennox, Diaz obviously from hand speed and athleticism not as good as Ortiz. What could Diaz do to be more effective?
Well, you know, I don't see him throwing too many body punches right now, and he needs to step Ortiz up against the ropes, and that's when he needs to explode and throw some good combinations in there.
Diaz has never been a super busy fighter or a super exciting fighter. He's just a steady, consistent, professional pressure fighter.
And he loves to mix it up. I mean, he would love Ortiz to stand still so they can mix it up.
End of round 4, Ortiz controlling the action. Well, still here to come on HBO's Boxing After Dark. Juan Diaz getting set for his rematch against Paulie Malignaggi. Won a controversial decision back in August in his hometown of Houston, Texas. That coming up live right here in Chicago in our main event in Chicago. And then you'll get a look from Bern, Switzerland of Vitaly Klitschko as he defends his heavyweight belt. He'll be stepping into the ring against Kevin Johnson out of New Jersey. No losses in Johnson's career. Big step up for Johnson against Klitschko. All coming up tonight on HBO's Boxing After Dark.
Let go of your hooks. You understand? Come on. Very good. Doing very good. You're working it well. Get ready.
So far, Ortiz has been able to find the mark. He's outlanded Diaz 50-22 through the first 4 rounds, according to CompuBox, so more than doubling him up. In control of the fight to this point. Diaz was dropped in round number 3. Lennox, when Ortiz is on his toes and you see him moving around a little bit, trying to create angles, how does Diaz sort of counteract that?
Well, it's difficult for him to do that because he doesn't have the speed to keep up to him, but he can also punch to the body, try and slow Ortiz down a little bit, walk him around, try and get him into a corner where he can, see some punches and throw some punches. But it's hard to hit a guy that's moving all the time, and every time you try and wage a combination against him, he punches you real quick and he moves out of the way.
You do see Diaz moments ago you saw him make Ortiz pay for the mistake of winding up a punch from too far away, looked like an uppercut, and Diaz hit him with a couple good hooks. And still, when Ortiz punches from out of range, Diaz is countering and making him pay here.
Yeah, Diaz is one step ahead right now than Diaz.
Ortiz and Diaz has started to box a little better in this round.
Ortiz using that movement, trying to not be a stationary target in front of Diaz, but when he is, he's a faster-handed boxer. Maybe a little straighter with his punches, too.
To see if the Ortiz camp was thinking that Diaz is a shot fighter and the first time he got hit hard he was going to go away, that's not the case. And should Ortiz go on to win this fight, then Diaz actually turns out to be the perfect kind of opponent, because he's landed some good shots and he's kept the pressure on Ortiz. And Ortiz seems to be thriving in the face of that pressure. And it's just the kind of bounce-back fight you'd want after the experience against Maidana.
It's like a cut along the left eye of Antonio Diaz. Both of these guys have dealt with cuts a lot in their careers.
Primarily what Camp Ortiz wants is an easy fight and a spectacular knockout. Thus far, they haven't gotten that, but maybe what they're getting, should he go on to win, is something better.
Ortiz stepped in with a little short right as Diaz was leaning in.
Ortiz has a great right hand. He hasn't used it that much. Now he's being very sparingly with it.
End of 5, scheduled for 10. On January 26th, see the return of 24/7. This time, instead of boxing, it's NASCAR. We'll focus in on 4-time Sprint Cup champ Jimmy Johnson and his teammates as they prepare for the season-opening Daytona 500. Then in March, HBO Sports of the 20th Century Series presents Magic and Bird, a courtship of rivals, an examination of the great link between these two in their lives, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird.
Stay on the inside. Stay small. Make yourself small. Close up. Close up. Close up. Keep your guard up. Keep your guard up. Close it out. And then get it on the inside. Lose up. Lose your punches. Very nice.
Okay.
Next, let me ask you about Victor Ortiz. He had that end to the fight against Maidana. They both were down. He got up, and Maidana hurt him in round number 6. He was cut. Does it look to you as if Ortiz is not feeling any effects of what happened in his last fight here tonight?
Well, everybody wants to forget about a fight that they lost and, prove to themselves and to the world that they're a better fighter than the way they see him in a loss. So, today he's doing quite well. Doesn't have any repercussions of the last fight, and that's what he wants to prove.
Ortiz philosophically views the last fight as a technical problem when discussing what went wrong, other than saying he was mentally, he wasn't focused, etc. you know, it wasn't my night and so I lost. He doesn't see it as some kind of, you know, warrior code problem that he needs to fight on even when he's essentially lost the contest. In his view, the contest was lost and he retired, and he hasn't made any statements really emphatically saying, hey, in that same position I would behave differently next time.
Yeah, it is worth noting too that, I mean, Ortiz came up in the most dire of circumstances. You know, living with his sister, being homeless, taking his brother Timo under his wing, taking guardianship of him. I mean, he's been through a lot in his life outside of the ring. So that aspect of his personality can never be questioned as far as that kind of toughness. And Diaz is cut. We talked about that left eyelid. Kind of similar to what happened in round number 6 for Ortiz against Madonna.
Doctor says it's okay. I'm sure they're going to be watching that eye because, you know, when you get blood running into your eye, it really affects your vision. And if he can't see out of that eye and he's getting hit a lot on that left side, referee may step in and the doctor may stop it.
It looks like it's in a bad spot. No, there's nothing wrong with Ortiz's philosophy, if that is indeed his philosophy, that, hey, if you lose the contest, you lose the contest. You don't lay your life on the line. It's a more civilized kind of approach to boxing, certainly, and it's a legitimate one. But in this country, at least, I think the thought is, and in Mexico, certainly, the thought is that you're going to run across men whose wills are not so easily subdued by your skill. What do you do then? Eventually, it's going to happen. So to be great, you have to be willing to lay it all out on the line.
Diaz keeps pawing at that eye.
You know, that's why boxing's such a mental sport. In those type of positions, you're supposed to tell yourself and dig deep and say, man, I can do it. I know what I need to do. You know, but a lot of people's heads are not there on it. As far as Ortiz, you know, he really said to himself, you know, that's it, man. I give up. I don't want to go on. So he wants to redeem himself in this fight.
And it appears that against Diaz, as most thought coming in, skill is enough to overcome him, although Diaz shows a very strong will by continually pressuring Ortiz throughout.
And he has his whole career, and that's his trademark. And he eats a combination right at the end of the round to punctuate the end of round 6.
Great left hand.
Very nice, nice. You have him hurt. Tell me again. Water, the water. We're gonna look. We're gonna look now. The cut is big. It's a very big cut. It's a very big cut. That's it. Here we go. That's it.
No more. That's it. That's it.
It's too big. It's too big. Relax. Relax.
And there you see the corner was not braver than the fighter. Antonio Diaz wanted to fight. The corner says no. The cut's too bad.
And, you know, it was a bad cut because all it's going to do is get worse. And, you know, Ortiz's right hand was going to be popping at that all night.
And so, having a corner like that enables the fighter. It aids the fighter in showing how brave he is because he knows that there are people there that are safeguarding him even against his own desire to fight on. I'm not sure that
Diaz would have gone out.
Diaz absolutely would have gone out to fight that round, it seems. I'm not sure that Ortiz believes that he has that.
You're all right, Jamila. Be strong.
There's his brother Timo. Remember, they had a falling out. Timo to the right there. You know, that's the young man that he took custody of when he was just a teenager, just like his sister did for him. And he put Timo through school. They had a falling out before the last fight. They've talked it out as a family. Timo does all the cooking. Said he learned how to cook watching Emerald on TV. And they back together, and the camp is happy. Let's take a look at the punch that caused the cut, Lennox.
This is it. Straight right, and this is what's going to be happening all night if the referee would have allowed the fight to continue. The cut would have just been worse, and it would have been more blood.
You see it right there, perfect cut. The eye was already swollen along the eyelid, and that straight right hand, then a left to boot. did not help matters for Antonio Diaz, who suffers the 6th loss of his career. Time for the official time of the stoppage. Here's Joe Antonacci.
Boxing fans, the time, 1 second of the 7th round. Your winner by technical knockout, vicious Victor Ortiz. How about a nice round of applause for the very game, Antonio Diaz.
So we take a look at the final punch stats as Victor Ortiz comes up with the victory, and you see through 252 punches, he landed at 37% in the fight, and he was able to land his power shots. That's what it's all about for Victor Ortiz, dominating in this fight as Antonio Diaz cannot answer the bell for the start of the 6th round, so a very good performance. When you look at the power punches, he landed them at 49% throughout the course of the evening, and that was the key as he busted open the left eye of Antonio Diaz tonight here in Chicago. We got a lot more boxing still.